Okay, let's see if Facebook or I'm sorry, YouTube can see me. This has been highly irregular. Yep. Okay, so I am live on Facebook. Yeah. No, that's that. No, I'm on YouTube. Sorry, I was meaning I was meaning YouTube, not Facebook. I can't go live on Facebook too. Well, maybe I can. Let me try doing it through. Maybe Zoom opened up and did something different. Okay, I got it. I see ya. Well, our normal 5 minutes mess up with all of the amazing stuff going on. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday night webinar at Pixel Pro Displays. It is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. Where are you guys at in your setup and your put together of your show? A lot of people are out there putting their show up and building things and getting their stuff ready, and I'm sure they're going to be getting stressed out here coming up in the near future. So, YouTube, if you can, I can see that I'm live on YouTube. It said 3 times that we weren't live, but it actually is live. So, if you can hear me on YouTube, please, please let me know. All right, Alex jumped in there. All good. Okay. I am going to get started here. I think. Let me put me down here in a little corner of the window, up in the corner of the window, that is. And to everybody that is on Facebook, welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you have some good questions and stuff, put them in chat. I'm watching chat on YouTube because I am seeing chat. Who is that? Lalo Lights and Alex is over there, and a couple other people. There's at least it shows 10 people watching. So clear and loud. Hopefully I come through with some clear and loud information for you guys, or good information, that is. There's 40 people in the Zoom room if you want to join in, and if you have questions, come into the Zoom room and ask your questions. I've got the Zoom room chat open up here, and I'll answer them as we go. After we're done tonight, you're welcome to stick around and join us for an open Q&A session. We call it open mic. After that, open mic night. Every other week is an open mic night, so next week, if you join us, it will be an open mic night. If you have questions, you're trying to get things working, you're running into a problem, or you're trying to accomplish something, jump in the Zoom room Tuesday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time every single week. So, well, that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. So tonight, I'm going to kind of go over something that we really haven't reviewed. Okay, good. That's good. We haven't reviewed in quite a number of years. In fact, the last time I did any kind of discussion on the VU meter was probably 2017, maybe 2018. And the video that I did was about 45 minutes long. Tonight's video is not going to be 45 minutes long. It's going to be a basic walkthrough of what the VU meter is, and show you some demonstrations of what it can do. And then I want to play. There's 3 sections that I want to walk through. There's the spectrogram section. There is the level section, and there is the timing section. And all of these sections, all of these setups that you see in the VU meter, there are a significant number of options that I mean, it's an unlimited number of options. And to go through all of this would literally take hours to really explain it. There's so many sliders and so many options, and some things work with other things and some things don't work with some things. So it's something you really have to spend some time learning and getting to grips with. So I don't want to say the VU meter is easy, because it's not easy, but I don't want to say it's hard, because it can be easy at times. Sometimes it's an effect that you can just touch down on your sequence, depending on the music or what's going on, and it can read that waveform, or it can read the frequencies, or it can attach itself to the beats or the notes or the level of the song. And so that's what I want to share with you, is some of the basics. And so if you have any questions, again, please put them in chat. And if you want to join us, go ahead and jump in the Zoom room. I put the link in the description of the video, so you're welcome to join us if you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, pixelprodisplays.com, click on the webinar button. Okay, so let's get started. The default version of the VU meter is called waveform, and if we take a second to just kind of walk through all of the things that you see on here, you have a bar slider, you have a type, and obviously waveform is the main type or the default type. You have a timing track box. Sometimes it is active and sometimes it is inactive, which at this point it is inactive. We have a filter label box. This is a new thing. We're really not going to get into this tonight. It's probably a twinkle tip at this point. We'll probably hit that sometime soon. We have a sensitivity slider. We have a gain slider. I remember the day that somebody come up with the idea to add a gain slider in, and I couldn't understand why that was necessary. I'm so glad that I just didn't open my mouth whenever somebody said that. I'm like, that's a lot of time. But Keith added it in, and it really makes a difference, as you'll see tonight. You have a couple different functions here. Shape. There is a shape function. We'll walk through that a little bit. We'll show you that it's there and that it works. And you have an SVG file. We can go in and add SVGs whenever the shape function is added. Next, you have a start note, and then you have an end note. So some things in the VU meter allow you to select specific pitches, higher pitches, lower pitches, mid pitches, and you can be very specific in the numbers you see there. Those are MIDI based, I believe they're MIDI based. 112 numbers, I can't remember. I really don't use MIDI. So then we have a logarithmic X axis, which is a way to kind of flatten out or distribute the VU meter in some of the spectrogram things. I didn't touch on this, but I can show you the checkbox as we go through. And then you have a couple offsets. You have a horizontal offset, and then you also have a vertical offset. And the vertical offset has a value curve icon, whereas the horizontal does not. So I don't know if that's by design or by the inability to be able to make it available to all the effects, but it might not necessarily make sense, as you'll see when we go through the spectrogram part, which we're going to go ahead and get started right now. Again, if you have any questions, put them in chat. Put them in the live chat, and I'll read through them, and we can answer them as we go. So let's go ahead, start out here. The first thing that you notice whenever you put it down, the default is going to most always be when you open up a brand new sequence, you have red and white is selected, and with the VU meter, let me scroll back up to the top. With the waveform, generally the default for the number of bars is 6, okay? And so when we start messing around with the bar slider, and I'm not going to hit every slider because it's almost impossible to do this webinar as it is with every option that's available. Just know that the waveform, which is the basics that you see right here, if you were to hold this section up, if you look at this section right here, we zoomed right in here, this is what's being displayed and being, well, basically, that's what it looks like. That's that waveform that's from that section playing during that exact time. So what you can do is you can add more bars. You can have more bars, or you could have less bars. And it all depends on the look that you're going for, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So if we go ahead, zoom out here a little bit, we'll go to the next selection, which is what I think most people, whenever you think of the VU meter, I think most people are going to think of bouncing equalizer bars, and that's what the spectrogram is. So if we select in the drop down from the VU meter, we have the spectrogram, and these are the ones that probably are going to be what most people, when they think of this is what they want to accomplish with the VU meter. So keep in mind, whenever you hit the default, whenever you bring the default in and you hit waveform and you drop it down, notice that it's the first thing on the list. Well, notice that there's a slider bar, and what you have to do is you have to slide it up, and that's how you get to spectrogram. That's how you get to peak spectrogram and the others that are above the waveform. So just so you see, this is the spectrogram. I'm going to go down here over in the effects settings box, I'm going to activate the logarithmic X. And what it does is it finds a different way to distribute the number of bars across whatever it is that you're portraying. I don't know the technical terms behind it. Keith is very smart whenever it comes to understanding and being able to describe exactly what xLights is doing. But from a user standpoint, that's where I am giving you my kind of impression of what xLights is doing with this. So I may not be 100% accurate with exactly what the developers designed it to do, but I'm just speaking from the experience that I've had. So this is spectrogram peaks. So spectrogram peaks, as you can see, it has the ability to bounce and then leave a peak, and that peak stays there, and then it begins to drop over time if that peak is not hit again or achieved again. So, but as soon as it is, it's pushed back up, and you can see it slowly kind of make its way down. It's a little more digital type thing. It's something you can play with. Obviously, you can add more bars to it, and you can change things around with it. You have some other options. Next, we have the spectrogram line. So once again, it's rather important that you are familiar that you can make changes to some of these, but also at other times, many of the other changes aren't available. So, for example, vertical offset is not set up here to work, but you have horizontal offset. What does horizontal offset do? It offsets it based on, I don't know. Maybe that's a bug. Ha! I just broke it. Look at that. Let's go back up here and add some more bars in. There we go. 100 bars, I don't know. And let's mess around with that a little bit. And this is one of the things that I remember very clearly whenever I did my last video on the VU meter. Keith probably found, as I was trying to mess with things, found a lot of things that I had misquoted or I had or were not working the way that it was supposed to. And it kind of, so if you're watching, if you are a developer, please don't be hard on me whenever I stumble through some of this. But be advised, some of this stuff just does happen like that. That's not.
I think you have to check the logarithmic x-axis for it to work, don't you?
Yeah, it's not. It does work there, but it's not doing what it was supposed to do. So let's, you know what? Let's go in and reset the effect, and then we'll pull it back down, and we'll look at that line, and we won't touch the horizontal. So we did spectrogram line. Spectrogram line was one of the favorites that I asked Keith to bring into xLights because it was a line and it could bounce. And who doesn't need bouncing lines in a sequence, right? So sensitivity, this is a little bit more fun. You can make xLights a little more sensitive. You can make it less sensitive. You can add more bars. You can take some of those bars away. You can make it less sensitive. You can way more sensitive or way less sensitive. This is less and this is more. So so you've got a lot of options. You don't need to hear the music just yet. This is the track. This is the spectrogram circle line. And what I like about the circle line, this was actually, I showed a picture to Keith to see if he could do something like, oh yeah, I can do that. And he did the circle instead of doing the line. So the circle came before the line. I remember that. And he always told me, he says it's not that the VU meter is easy to work with. He would tell me that if there was something that you wanted added into VU meter, it's not terribly difficult to kind of come up with if you know what you're looking for. So if you have recommendations for the VU meter, then I'm not telling you to go beat the walls down, but if you ask the right one for the right one, they might come up with it on what you see in the drop down. So spectrogram circle line, it's a circle. It's the same thing as the line. The line is a direct representation of what's going on. The circle, it's the same thing, only completed in a circle. And obviously you can have a little bit more bars into it. You can have less bars into it. You can the one thing that you will see is that that sometimes the gain comes in. You can use the gain. Sometimes the gain doesn't come in. John, you can't hear me at all? YouTube, can you hear me? Just give me a shout out if you can. That's 7. There's 7 or 8 of you over there. Anybody else have any issues hearing me? I just kind of bumped up my gain by the way. Anything. Yep. Okay, so I'm good on YouTube. And Tom says he can hear me. So I'm going to keep going. I'm sorry I can't fix your sound issues. Maybe have to log out and log back into Zoom, or maybe listen on YouTube if that's an option for you. So next, what we'll do is we'll go into the next one, which is, whoops, I mean to get that out of the way. Volume bars. So volume bars is basically, if we come up here and we add a few more bars, you're going to see that this looks an awful lot like the waveform, the top half of the waveform. In fact, if you wanted to get kind of a little bit into layer blending, we could copy this and we could paste it and we could flip this vertically, and it might look something like that. And it might look something like the reverse of a waveform. I don't know. It's so similar. It's so similar. Volume bars is so similar to this at the beginning that it makes you wonder, it makes you wonder, are they the same or close enough? So it's just another way that I see that you can utilize, where to go? Where was, oh, right there. Another way you can utilize VU meter and some of the functions in it with the volume bars. So next we have a waveform, which shouldn't be confused with spectrogram lined. So frame waveform is another one that well, maybe this is the one I asked for. I thought it was spectrogram line, but frame waveform is, it takes the frame and the exact frame at that moment, and it shows the frequency. And I always thought that was rather neat. And it gets kind of a little bit more crazy when you start playing with the gain. It really adds I mean, just putting these two across each other, you can obviously you can layer them. So if we play it out, so there's a little bit of fun to be had with the frame waveform. It is one of my favorites. I do enjoy using it. It's a little it's one of those that you tend to try not to overuse. And one of the things that you might consider using is a value curve on the vertical offset here. Again, I was showing a little bit of layer blending. What I'll do is I'll just kind of layer blend this. I'm going to flip this vertically, and we can change this to different colors. And you can have a little bit of fun with kind of just doing different stuff with the VU meter. One of the things that you can do is use persistence, and it makes an interesting kind of a pattern. I don't know how useful that is for some people, but might be interesting and fun to play with. But persistence is definitely something interesting. So, but as far as the spectrogram type of VU meters, those are kind of the most common ones, the ones that you're probably going to play with. I'm going to go ahead and get into the level section of the webinar tonight. It's kind of funny. I was loading this up for the first time, and as I was loading it, it loaded right into the sequence, and it crashed drastically. So it was interesting. I do have a bug report for it, so if the developers want it, I'll gladly give it over. So anyway, next we're going to get into kind of the levels. We just kind of briefly went over pretty much everything from the very top of the screen down to about 1/3. There are other things that you can play with: dominant frequency, color on, intensity wave. I mean, there's useful things in here. I just can't cover everything and still hold this together for a reasonable meeting. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to say the next thing that we're going to get into is the level section, and level is looking at I don't want to say volume, but how it comes across. And one of the things that whenever you use level bar or level just in general is you're going to end up playing with the sensitivity and the gain. in different areas of the song in order for it to do something that you might consider to be interesting. So with that being said, obviously I have level bar selected. There is some kind of music here that's not really doing anything. And so what do you do whenever you put the VU meter down and it doesn't do anything? And most people are like, well, the VU meter sucks. It's not doing anything. Well, that's because it's not being given enough information, so we have to make some adjustments. The first thing that I would do is I would adjust the number of bars. Is it up, down? Give it some bars. And if you've given it some bars and it still doesn't do anything, then I go to the gain. That's usually where I end up going to the gain. And I just give it a couple gains, bring it way up here. Oh, look, it's doing something. It's not exciting. But now it's doing something a little bit more so. If we lower the number of bars, the smaller the number of bars, the less times it's going to show up, but the more movement across your props or your models and so forth that you'll see. So if we have this set to, let's say, 6, you have 6 xLights will divide up whatever prop it is or group of props or group of items. It'll divide it up into 6 bars, and it will display the on effect vertically on that group of props in this order as you see. Now, it does this with color in mind, so we can change this to red, green, blue, and white, and you have red, green, blue, and white going across the screen 6 times. We can do it to 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So now it's picking up a level, but is it a useful level? And that's the thing. So sometimes we need a little bit more sensitivity, or maybe we need a little less sensitivity. And what I did here was I just played with the gain and so forth. What I want to do is I want to delete that. I want to go back again to the basic VU meter and put it down, and I want to change that back so that we start over at the beginning, because I want you to hear what's going on when nothing's going on. There is music here. So there's music that you should be able to hear in the background, and it's not doing anything. But if we give it something more, especially with the sensitivity, with the gain, and all I did was pump up the gain. I gave it 6 bars, and you could continue that for, well, there's 16 beats right there. And so you can see where, hey, that's keeping the tempo there. There's enough movement across the screen, and it's kind of keeping in time with it. So there's something fun that you can play with. The level bar, it definitely goes off of the music. Something fun to play with. I wanted to get into the sensitivity slider a little bit, and the default is set to 70 on this. So this is the level bar at 70. If we make it lower number, that means it's more sensitive, or it can pick up it's like you opened it up so that it can hear it better. If you make it less sensitive, it doesn't do much. And that's just the change in gain. So, in the sensitivity. So that's the difference between boosting the gain and boosting your sensitivity is 2 different things. So keep that in mind. And that's what makes that's what makes it challenging to use this, because there is no exact science to it. You have to literally make your adjustments. And I came up with the name a couple years ago. It was called micro adjustments, making small, tiny changes, and could really make a difference with the VU meter. But it takes time to sit there and figure all of that out, especially since each track from one track to another is different. So another reason, so just by happenstance, PPD puts effects presets out. Quite often, every month we put out 4 for club members, and each month we put 1 out just for everybody in the community. You're welcome to try it out and check it out and add it to your collection and learn from different layer blending techniques and so forth. One of the things I almost never ever use in my preset effects is the VU meter. And the reason that I don't use it is because when I'm playing with the VU meter and it does something really cool in one song and you apply it to your song, it may not do that really cool thing. So it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating to use this and be consistent and have a consistent look all the time, especially when we're inside using the level bar or the spectrogram stuff. So that's just kind of a side note. I wanted to throw that in there. So Another thing here is here's adjusting your sensitivity with the bars and the gain both at the same time. Just adding a little bit really makes a big difference. If you wanted it to be a little bit more interesting, you could change this to 4 because this is a 4-beat song. And it kind of all works together a little bit. You have the option, obviously I've been doing a little bit of layering here. Nothing up my sleeve, nothing fancy here, but all I did was I put a level bar and I used excuse me. I use nothing more than 9 bars, and I use that same gain, and I just come down here and I transform the buffer by 90 degrees clockwise, counterclockwise. So it just something basic. You could have a lot of fun with just rotating the buffer with some of these options. So it's a little bit more fun to play with, and to get something out that looks really good, it might be a little bit more challenging, but trust me, if you take your time with it, you might come up with something cool, and when you do, you'll want to save it as a preset maybe, because you never know if it's going to work the same way the next sequence. Next, we have a level random bar. Now, why would anybody want anything kind of random in xLights? In xLights, in our head, we want this exact thing to happen at this exact time with this exact color doing this exact thing. And whenever you use random bar kind of, especially whenever you're trying to play off of the randomness of the music or the sound of the music, it just kind of, when we all went to some crazy concerts when we were younger kids, well, at least I did, and man, I caught myself headbanging, and that's, kind of not something I do now, but man, there's just some songs that really just make your head want to bounce, and so whenever I see something like that in a song, this is where level random bar comes in. In fact, random bar shows up more than once. This isn't the only place that you're going to see it. Next, we have level pulse. Level pulse is here I'll just play it for you. So it's reading off of the level. It's not a perfect. It's not an absolute perfect on and fade out. But it's doing it to the level of the music. See how it's stuttered right there? See, it stutters a little bit. Where when we get into some of the other timing event pulse and so forth, I'm kind of prefacing what we're going to see in a minute. Those are a little more perfect. This is a little bit more reading from what the cues in the music are giving it. So again, it's through the levels, and it's not exactly perfect. And sometimes imperfection is what you're looking for. You don't need it to be perfect. So there's that. The next one we have is level. So that was level pulse. This is level jump, and level jump is different than timing event jump when we get into that. Which is different than note jump. I think note jump exists. But in any event, you can see how it's imperfect. It's imperfectly perfect. It's perfect that it doesn't work the way that a perfect one does. And sometimes, again, whenever you're trying to get a specific look, a dirty kind of look, maybe like a kind of a scruffy look, this is something that you want to use. And again, and it's just reading off of the levels that are there. And it's also not exactly a full jump, whereas we have level jump 100, and that's this next one here. It's going to the 100 point, or the full size of the buffer, the height of the buffer, and it's jumping all the way up, and then it's going down. Now when we look at some of these pulses, when we look at the jumps, and when we look at the level jump 100, this bar slider tends to mean how long do I jump and then sustain myself. So I'll hold this out to here, and the longer the bars are, the less that this is going to drop down. So that might be something that's interesting for you. Maybe you want it at where it's going to not go the whole way down, but it's going to go down and then bounce right back up. Maybe you want it to disappear within an instant. So keep in mind that the bars, whenever you're using something like level, something like timing, that this is the duration that it's going to last. If you want this to be slight pulse, That's just pulsating, and it's not ever going off. This is a little bit more pulsating. This is more pulsating, and then here's it's physically going off. And it's just so you're aware, just so you understand that the bars plays a huge effect on this. And again, mix that in with your sensitivity, mix that in with your gain, mix that in with anything else, any of the other options that are available. Obviously, not all the options are available, as you can see. We have level pulse color next. Now, just like it sounds, level pulse color is just bouncing to the beat or flashing to the beat, and it's doing it one checkbox of color at a time. If you want to have some fun with this, you can add double colors, so you can have 2 whites and 2 greens and two blues, we'll say. So there, and then you have to check them all, obviously. And if we play that, so again, something interesting that might be something that you want to do. Next, we have another thing here that says that I started messing around with whenever I changed the colors. It was sensitivity and gain. Those are the key. Whenever you change these, you're going to get a little bit more. If we go back to this, let's go back to this. Level pulse color. We were at sensitivity of 53 and gain of 22. Again, if you make some of those changes, just slightly less or slightly more on something, I call it micro changes. Or you make a couple micro changes and just see kind of what it does. What's it doing here versus what was it doing at the other one? So something, again, like I was saying, to kind of play around. You have to play around with this. This isn't something that you just automatically do, and it automatically comes up and does the automatic stuff. Level shape. So this one's fun. This one's definitely fun. The level shape here, you have a bunch of different options. Now, this is the filled circle. When I put circle on here, at first my model was so big that the circle or my model was so small that the circle was so big and you couldn't see it. So I had to change this into a solid or a filled, and once I did that, I could clearly see it on the matrix, and it looked really cool. So that was a lot of. So this is one of those fun ones that you can play with. If you use SVG files, we can. I mean, here's a filled heart. But if you use SVG files, which is something that's becoming more and more common in xLights, let me see if I can find one real quick. Maybe I got one. Maybe I got one somewhere. Go website images real quick. Well, we'll do this real quick. We'll go download one. SVG. So this is a interesting website. Not that I don't use this particularly, but I'm just going to grab this. Why not? We'll grab this. We'll download this SVG. Bam. Now I have an SVG, and this is just for demonstration purposes. Desktop downloads, and I am going to browse and enter that. And I am not sure. No, I'm doing this on the fly again, so you guys get to see if I can make it work or not. Let's move this around a little bit, see if I can't get it to go back to default. So it's doing something on there, but the point is that you can do. I don't know if it has a scaling to the size of the. Yeah, I don't know that it has a scaling to the size of the SVG file. So, in any event, something you can play with. I'm not going to spend much more time on that. But it's available. SVG files are becoming much more interesting as you play with them in different effects. Finally, I wanted to show the slow downfall of the level shape. And level shape, filled circle. Well, now why isn't that doing anything? Let's see. So we had this thing called slow downfall, and as you see the bouncing that's going on in the VU meter, what you'll find is that you can slow the downfall down sometimes in some of the VU options. So in this option, it works. It's pretty interesting. It gives you kind of a little bit of a slow bounce. That's without it. That's with it. This kind of smooths it out, kind of, you know, makes it look like it's a little bit more solid. If you want something that's a little more rough or in your face, you can uncheck it and you have a little bit more of a slow downfall. Finally, I'm going to jump onto the level, or I'm sorry, I'm going to jump off of the level and I'm going to go into the timings, and because the timings to me are the most fun. I could go on forever about the VU meter, but and in this instance, I don't have a whole lot pre-prepared, but I want to share with you a couple of the things. And there's a reason why I have some arches on the screen, and it's just so that you can see another way to use the VU meter, because I can't show everything. But I want you guys to at least walk away from tonight's class with a little bit of understanding. This is timing event bars, and this is the close to the default, but I've got 4 colors selected. And as you can see, if we have a timing mark selected in the drop down here, so we have a bars, we have a beats, and we have a new timing. I have beats set up here on this song. So what xLights is doing is saying, hey, upon every timing event, what I want you to do is I want you to activate a bar, and this is how many bars I want you to have. I want you to have 4 bars. I can change this to 8. So it can be smaller bars. And so you can do that as well. So you can have it go across there twice. And what I really like about this is it's super easy, especially if you're doing something on a matrix. If you're doing something on props, then it's also easy. You're activating only one prop in the whole group. So in this instance, I have 6 arches in this instance. And what I've done is I've set the render style to default model as a pixel. This is a way to tell the bar to apply to a solid model. But what you have to do, and this is thanks to Scott, because I think Scott wrote the code so that it worked, because it wasn't exactly right. I'm not sure. But what Scott did was he made sure that whenever you have the same number of bars selected as the same number of props you have in there. So, for example, there are, like I said, 6 arches. There's 3, 4, 5, 6 arches there. We have 6 bars, and per the model, what it's showing you is that we have, through the beats, we're using 6 bars, 6 colors, or six times that it's going to go across it, and apply that one effect to each default model as a pixel. So that's how you see the arches lit up solid, bouncing right along. And I do use this quite a bit. This is a lot of fun to use. So you'll see that here in these 2 examples down below. We have timing event random. Now, again, there's that randomness, and you can see here, this one has 8 bars on the top, and then down below you have 6 bars. And so it's randomly selecting which props or models to turn on, or which part of the model, but it's only doing it per the bar. So in other words, this bar isn't going to overlap with where another bar would be, we'll say. It's not taking a random sample. It's taking the model, dividing it up here by 8 sections, and it's saying randomly pick a section, turn it on, and give it a random color that I predetermined. Well, not a random color, because it's actually reading left to right. It's reading the first, second, third, and fourth, and displaying it that way. Next, we have timing event bars, plural. So there's 3 different ones here. You have timing event bar, timing event random bar, and timing event bars. Okay, well, for many of you, this might look darn familiar to the bars effect. If we do bars left, you can see that you have bars that go across the screen. If you zero out the bars and you put two sets, there's two patterns there. Look, there's the bars effect. So you can keep in mind that whenever you're trying to do something specific in xLights, and this is something honestly that I used to do a lot. I used to take the bars effect and I would put the bars effect down there, and then I'd put another bars effect there, and then what I would do is I'd take the white color, I'd move it here, and then I would change this from that to there. Now I'm teaching you something about the bars effect, and then I put this down again, B for bars, and I put the red one down, and I check it like that, and uncheck the other one, put the bars effect down again, and the next one, the next color would be green. We'll put the green down, select that green, unselect that green, and you can see what exactly is going on if I just copy and paste this. You can see that the bars are kind of concurrently moving down, even though there's no cycles, they're moving along with the beat. But here's the exact same thing, the exact same effect. I did this manually, but the VU meter does this automatically. If you have your timing event bars set, it will advance those bars for you. So hopefully that's an interesting and easy way for you to kind of think about one of the things that you may have done manually, but you could also do with VU meter. And just, having a little bit of fun. What I want to do now is I'm going to kind of free flow through a couple of the other options that are in the VU meter that are on the timing event. And the reason why I'm going to do it free floating, because I use this a little bit more often, so I'm much more familiar with some of the options. Oops, I didn't put it down there. There we go. There we go. And quite honestly, there's a couple things that we're going to use on the arches that I think that you're going to find. So what you see here is you see 8 bars that we have going across here. We have multiple colors selected, but whenever you have timing event spike, what it's doing is it's spiking the number of bars and sending it across the screen for each one of the timing track label that you set. So for beats, it's running a bar spike across across those 8 bars. If you wanted it to be something much skinnier, let's say 25 bars across there you have it doing the same kind of thing there. If you had 50 on there, there's kind of the same thing. You could do this with the single strand effect, but if you're trying to keep this at I don't know, something that looks like it's supposed to be swaying with the music, you can see that kind of goes along with it right there. Next, we'll go ahead and switch over to timing event sweep, and we're actually going to do this on. We're going to do this on the. We're going to do this on the arches. So timing event sweep, and I'm going to change this to beats, and this is where it probably makes the most sense for some people. What we're doing here is by default we have 10 bars, and we're sending 10 bars per each timing mark across the entire model. And in this case, the model is a group of arches. If we go to our render styles and we change this to per model default, look what happens. So this is like the automatic way to sequence your arches. If you're looking to do something very specific, you can do this with the timing marks. It's not available on level, and we're not going to get into the note level stuff. But this is why the timing events are probably my most fun to play with. So you can have your timing event sweep where you have the arches bouncing. Now it doesn't appear to be bouncing, but that's because there's other options that allow you to make it bounce. There's also a timing event sweep too, a second version of what you see here. We'll go ahead and switch it, and you can see there's just a little bit of difference to it. If we add more bars to it, it becomes smaller and smaller, the skinnier the arches, you know. If you have 4 bars to it, it takes the arch and divides it up by 4 and says apply 1 bar every 4, or maybe it's 5 bars, maybe it's 6 bars, but then after a while it gets into a much more minute kind of look that might be useful, might not be useful for you. So there is timing event sweep 2. You have timing event timed sweep. And again, it's just a different variation on the timing sweep. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to scroll. I'm going to use the scroll wheel on my mouse. So if you're looking on, I'm going to scroll down through this to get to the next one, because that might be something you're not familiar with. So this is timing event timed sweep 2. This is the second version of it. And if we go between this one and we scroll back up to the other one, can you tell the difference between the type of sweep that goes across it? So one is much more well-defined or defined. This one here is more of a like happy bounce, I guess. It's like a little bit more flowing. Again, you can mess around with the number of bars. You can have less or more, and less meaning lower number in the timing event sweep 2, timed sweep 2, versus more. So you get something a little different. We'll go ahead and we'll switch through alternate time sweep. So this might be something that if you're trying to make your arches bounce back and forth, this is one thing that you could give a shot to and messing around with. This is it's a full sweep, so it starts at the whole bottom, moves all the way up, and then moves it all the way back. So it's completing the entire bar, sending it across there. And the smaller we make this, the smaller it is. The larger we make this, the larger it is. Okay. If we go to the alternate time sweep 2, now you've got the bounce back and forth. It's alternating between the two. And again, if we make this smaller number, the bars are smaller. Larger number, the bars are bigger. So just something to kind of have an idea about. Those sweeps are a lot of fun to play with. Again, it all depends on the individual taste of what you're trying to do in your sequencing. Now we have some time chases from the middle and to the middle. Basically what they've done is you can take the single strand effect and you can do all of these exact same things from middle, but now you can do this per each individual model using the VU meter. And so it kind of automates a lot of what used to be done, or what we were using the single strand effect for. The difference, though, is that if you're using this timed, you have to line it up with your timing marks. Now, either you've generated your own timing marks, or you have to generate specific ones. So, in the instance where you want that kind of from middle instance to last longer, it's easier to use a single strand effect, so you can control how fast or slow it moves across the model that you're applying it to. So definitely have both have its usefulness. If you want something that's automatic, this is definitely the way to go. And then timing event chase to middle. So we'll get rid of this so it's not distracting. And you can see we have a lot of bars. Let's lower that bar count. And there's your chase to middle. So that's an interesting way to have it chase to the middle. And now the timing event color, we'll add a couple colors in here. You can see it's not pulsating. It's just changing the color to the beat of the music. And then you have timing event jump. And now you're going to notice if we're on the arches, so this is the first time we've really done this on the arches, you're going to notice it's not really jumping. If I take this and move this up here, you're going to see, oh, look, it's jumping. It's got, it's got a little bit of upward movement, right? Well, here we'll kind of give it a couple more colors. If we extend the bar here, you can see that the timing event, it adds more bars to it, so you can see it bouncing up there to reach that jump. So that's the timed. Now, just like, and this is just like the levels, how we had level bars, level color, we had level jump. Now we have time jump, and we have jump 100. So here, in this instance, we're jumping 100% of the time. And the smaller you make this, it's the longer it lasts, is the shorter it lasts, I should say, rather. And you can make that change if you want to. If you wanted to pulsate to not all the way, go all the way down, that is. Finally, we are moving into one of the ones that I use quite consistently. As I said before, I use the level pulse at times whenever I want something to be not as more scruffy, not as perfect. If I want something absolutely perfect, timing event pulse is amazing. If I want something short and staccato, the lower the number is, the more it's going to flash on and off like that. It's going to be, I won't say it's not a strobe effect by any means. It would be more of a strobe if you have more timing events, but that's not what we're trying to go with here, because you can do shimmer with or strobe with the strobe effect, or you can do shimmer with the on effect. But timing event pulse is very useful for bouncing something or flashing something to the beat. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, hey, I want those arches to light up just like that, right? So, double check some things here. Okay. And finally, the last thing I'm going to go over is timing event pulse color. So as you can see here, timing event pulse color, nothing crazy to it. It's just the same thing. It's the level, it's the timing event and the pulse plus the color all mixed into one. You can change the colors based on whatever your sequence colors are for that part of the song. There's a number of times you have some good hits in the song where it's bam, 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 and then if you put the timing marks stretched out to here's one timing hit, here's another timing hit, and then the third one is all the way down, you know, a couple things down, and you utilize the VU meter for that, and it can really make a nice hit or a statement in your sequence. So those are definitely the ones that I use very much the most of the time. So guys, I mean, I could go on for hours about the VU meter, but this is what I wanted to cover today. Do you have any questions? Is there anything that you were looking to see tonight that I didn't go over? Go ahead and throw it in chat. If you're on YouTube, again, huge thank you guys for being there. Hopefully you give us a thumbs up. You like the video. I know there's still a number of you out there. Really appreciate all the support that you guys bring. Last weekend, actually, I'm going to say this. I'm going to regret this. If you notice, we had a pretty big Labor Day sale. And we did a huge number of things. If you go onto the website right now, the Labor Day sale is still active. It was active through tonight. We just ended it yesterday. But if you go on, the $30 sequences are still on sale. So by all means, maybe consider picking one of those up. There's some great deals out there still for it. You're welcome to go give that a shot. So with that, I appreciate you guys joining us. If you have any questions, got a couple coming in now. YouTube, if you have any questions, pop them in chat there. Let's see. Define what filter labels as used for 25 words. Define what filter labels is used for. Okay, I can actually do that. That's fine. So filter label was added, and don't ask me about regex. Regex, this has to do with code. And I don't know code, so I don't know what regex is. Daryl's with us, I see, too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter to filter out a number. So notice we have the bars here. The beats here. And they're listed as 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that consistently carries through the whole song. If you wanted to use a timing mark in the pulse that we're using, for example, and you only wanted it to go off on the 2 beat, you could, let me click on that again, put it on so it only goes off on the 2 beat. You can see here, and we're actually going to do, instead of pulse color, let's go back to pulse, and we'll use white, and then we'll use pink so that they're stark. And I'll add another layer in here so that you can see this. So see the number 2 here. So every time you see the number 2, it's going to activate for this effect. It's going to activate the pulse, the timing event pulse color, or the pulse. Yeah, that's fine. No. I thought timing event pulse, and I want to specifically use just timing event pulse. Now I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this, and I've changed that number to 2, but what if I layer this and I put this on the 4-beat and I change the color to green? Green works, I guess, instead of pink. So now you have the ability to filter the label that you want the timing mark to read, and you can do a 2/4 beat, or maybe it's a 1/3 beat, and you can definitely utilize this to layer some of your effects. That's a fun that was a fun addition that came in. You can do some coding in here, and I'm not a coder. I have no idea what code has to go in there, but it's definitely interesting. So, good question, good question, Kent. Yeah, Daryl said put a 4 in it. We'll only hit on the 4s. That's exactly what it is. Any other questions? Any other comments? YouTube. Huge shout out to everybody that are out there. Thank you very much for watching. Been an hour, like I said, the last time I did a video on anything dealing with the VU meter was probably like 2016, 2017, and it was 45 minutes long. We went about an hour tonight. A little technical difficulties, but a lot of interesting information, a lot of interesting things to test out. I have no doubt that you will be busy the next few days just trying to wrap your head around all the little things that you can do. I could have done the webinar tonight just on the timing events alone, but at the same time, I think there was a little bit more tonight that I wanted to share. So, guys, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being here. If you like the video on YouTube, on Facebook, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Share it with everybody if you think it's something helpful that other people might be interested in learning more about. And as always, we appreciate you guys. We hope you appreciate the things that we do here. Consider joining the PPD Sequence Club. We do one awesome sequence each and every month, brand new to the store. We've been doing 2 now for over a year, and we have 4 selections in the store this month for the club members. So, and we'll be doing that next month too. There'll be 4 songs in there, both 2 Halloweens and 2 Christmas songs. So, guys, that's it for me and Robert. Huge thank you to Robert for getting things going on his end to make the webinar roll on Facebook. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you Friday for Twinkle Tips Friday. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time, guys. Have a great evening. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.